do it in here rather than Will's place, it's a bit more comfortable, and also we're a little bit more independent then. We're not relying on William and using his studio, so we can do it whenever we want to do it, really, which gives us a little bit more freedom.
It does, yeah, exactly.
So I know this is last minute because somebody cancelled on us, so I apologise. I'm talking to you now. Yes, we're working. I am. And we've got new mics and we've got new everything, and you set up the whole job lot.
Quite exciting, really.
Yeah, it is. And like,
I feel like we've grown up.
Yeah, but we can take it wherever we go now, can't we?
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, we can go to places.
Except we've stolen one of William's mics, I believe.
Yes, we have. So,
but I think he's stolen my singing mic.
Okay, so like
perhaps quid pro quo. Yeah.
Good morning, Sarah.
Morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Very welcome.
So you asked what we talk about, and I suppose we talk about anything really. So we talk about life. We talk about, obviously, we're a mental health charity, so we talk about people's experiences around mental health or their families or what they've experienced in life. We can talk about singing if you like. Don't forget to speak into the mic.
Okay.
So, Sarah, why don't you introduce yourself first? Tell us a little bit about you.
My name's Sarah, and I actually came to Somerset because I went to Somewhere House Rehab.
Okay.
17 months ago now.
Woohoo.
Wow.
When I came, I was only coming for 4 weeks. Yeah, literally.
I've not been able to leave.
And I've not been able to leave since.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. So come on, background. Single?
Single. I am single. No kids. I used to be a store manager for Sainsbury's.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I had started working with young people, which I absolutely love. Working with young people, getting them back into work and education. But yeah, life didn't really turn out the way I expected it to. Got into addiction, and that's what made me turn up here.
Okay.
And I suppose it's quite, I mean, how old are you?
42, just.
Yeah. It's quite a significant time to get into recovery, isn't it? It's not there's lots of things that you haven't done or you haven't achieved that you want to achieve. And there's a lot of things that you want to achieve that you can't achieve necessarily because of age, if you see what I'm saying. You know, and it's that dilemma, isn't it, between being grateful for recovery, but also grieving what you haven't had or can't have, if you see what I'm saying. And I think that a lot of people are in that position when they're dealing with either their mental health or their addiction issues. Do you agree with that or not?
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? I've probably been trying to get well from addiction and mental health for about 10 years.
Okay.
We were talking earlier about education being something that I'd always wanted to do, but I never really got into. And being 42 and not having children as well, that's quite a hard one to look at. That's one of the consequences of, my addiction, really. And I was at a carnival yesterday and I saw all the little kids. I was like, oh, they're so cute.
You can always adopt.
Yeah, I was talking about that last night as well. I'd love to adopt or foster.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it'd be an older age as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like teenage years are really important to me. I think there's not enough role models or not enough people that they're like a forgotten age, really. Everyone loves the really tiny babies and the young children.
It's a bit like, I don't want to compare it to dogs, but everybody loves a puppy. And, it's that kind of, oh yeah, they're cute and all that kind of stuff. But actually, yeah, it's young adults, I suppose, that are a bit more, they need more support, especially, now, with everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah, I was thinking about this. Normally at Christmas they do like buy toys for young people.
Yeah.
People always buy the really small gifts for the babies and the toddlers, but no one really buys the gifts for like the 11, 12, 13-year-olds.
What do you buy though? Do you know what I'm saying? Because a lot of young people, like, they're either into games or gaming or makeup but what do you buy? If you were doing like a box donation, like we've often done from the rehab, we've done these things where you have a shoebox and you fill it up. What would you fill up for a teenager?
I would do like a little pampering
gift.
Yeah. And even the boys, I've heard them before, they'd like, all they want is like a pair of cozy socks, something like that. Even it's just some smellies for an older person.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, I feel that they're like sometimes the forgotten.
Yeah. generation.
Yeah, they can be hard work, can't they? As well. So
Of course.
But I mean, I love the little kids. I absolutely do. But I find them really difficult because you can't always have an intellectual conversation. Whereas with a teenager, you can often have and they argue with you, which I love that. They have their own opinion. And I think it's really nice to have their own opinion and express that. I mean, I've supported young people in our own home. So they've come and lived with myself and Dave, with quite a few kids. And it is really hard work, especially if they've come from like a damaged background. And I suppose it's whether or not you're fully functioning. You've got to be really on your own game, don't you, to be able to do that? Because otherwise you're passing on your stuff onto that kid, aren't you?
yeah. And I think that's what I wish. I wish I had people when I was that age to guide me.
Yeah.
Like I'm being guided now, really.
Yeah.
Down the right path. Knowing what was right, what was wrong, or just someone there.
Yeah, of course.
To care and talk to.
Yeah, and what's normal and what's not normal, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, no, I identify with that a
Yeah.
lot, big time. Because I mean, you had a mum and dad at home all the time, didn't you? And I suppose if you compare, I'm not saying that you had the perfect childhood, because I don't think anybody's necessarily had the perfect childhood, but if you compare what you've experienced compared to, say, what I've experienced and compared to, say, what Sarah's experienced, yours was pretty normal.
Yeah, and everyone's is wildly different. And
Yeah.
I think, I remember going to school and there was people who had difficult, childhoods growing up.
Yeah.
And, even when you sort of would talk to them and reflecting back on it now, some of them were pretty bad. And then you've got others who almost sort of moaned it was bad, but actually, they really didn't have a bad childhood. I remember a friend of mine who I was very close to at school who sort of, she got everything she ever wanted. And I remember we were probably 14, something like that. And we're on the bus to school. And she had this mobile phone, which back then was relatively new. That as a 14-year-old, you'd have your own mobile phone, and she was like hitting the phone against the bus seat because she wanted a new one. And mum and dad said, "No, there's nothing wrong with the one you've got." So she was sat there like damaging her phone, and you just think, that's just such a sort of spoiled brat syndrome. Is how I would call it. And a few weeks later, she got this brand new phone. And while she was a bit of a spoiled brat, actually her home life wasn't that great. And I think her parents actually, they spoilt her simply because that was the only way they knew how to parent, or if they were going away for a while for work or for whatever reason, or if they had an argument at home, it was a case of there you go, there's a new console or a new phone or a new whatever, just to kind of
pacify,
pacify, make things okay.
It can hide quite a lot of money, can't it?
Yeah.
Because on the outside, if you've got a nice house, if you've got a nice car, if you go on nice holidays, got the latest designer gear, and to the outside, everything seems fine. But money, like you said, can hide.
Oh, it can, for sure. And years and years later, more and more, she told me more and more about her home life, and actually, it wasn't great. It wasn't great, but you wouldn't have known that back then.
But I think when you come from a difficult background, childhood, whatever, or indeed a marriage or a relationship that isn't necessarily okay, you can put on that face, can't you? You can actually be a different person. The world wouldn't necessarily know the problems, and you can cover stuff up. It's easy. I mean, I know you've had difficulties at home, not at home as such, but you've had quite a tough time for the last few years. But what people wouldn't necessarily, I know that because I know you incredibly well, but other people wouldn't necessarily know that. They wouldn't know the whole journey of what you've been through, and people wouldn't know a journey that I've been through necessarily, apart from the fact that I'm like an open book and tell everybody everything I've got.
And a lot of it's in your book.
A lot of it's in my book, yeah. But do you know? But I'm quite open. I'm not. But there are things that I don't tell people about, and I keep quite private. But is that the right way to be? In the sense of like you do, you're very, very private. You very rarely share. You're very private. You don't necessarily share. Is it, I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong, but I don't know if any of you, there was a program on the TV about abuse for people who are disabled. It was on the BBC, I think it was. I think it was the BBC, wasn't it? And they were talking about how very often people who are disabled or have a disability of some form experience abuse as much, if not more, than people who are not disabled and don't have a disability. But actually, what they do is they put on this front to kind of cover it up. And it's like we all put on fronts to a certain degree, like the girl with a mobile phone.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. It's a bit of a front. But yeah, it's incredibly hard. If it's okay, sir, I'd like to ask what made you decide to go down the route of going into rehab. At what point did you decide that this is what I want to do now?
Honestly, so this was my 5th rehab attempt. So
okay,
yeah,
I would not have guessed that.
yeah, so my 5th attempt, and my final rock bottom, as we call it, is that I was actually going to end my own life.
Okay.
I had written my letters to my nephews, to a couple of other people, and that was it. I was going to, because I couldn't get out of the spiral of using every day. I was in a very toxic, I wouldn't call it relationship, but it was a toxic situation. And the only way I could see getting any peace was to end my life, which is it makes me really sad when I think about that now, where I am today.
Yeah.
And I reached out to someone who said to me, you need to go back into treatment.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go back into treatment, this time you've got to do things differently, and you have to be abstinent from not only the drinking drugs, a person, some of my old behaviours. I've suffered with food addiction as well, bulimic. And I don't know, something looked after me and got me here. I don't know what, but I was going to do what I've always done, which is go to rehab for 4 weeks, not get honest, not abstain.
Yeah, just have a break from it.
Just have a break, yeah.
Yeah, which is, like you said, did it 4 or 5 times before.
Yeah, and I wasn't expecting to find this place, which makes me a bit emotional now saying it.
I can imagine, but when I work with a number of different treatment centres around the country, and by far Somewhere House has such a different approach. It is like a family, and I think that makes a massive difference to people, because actually they feel valued. There's lots of treatment centres out there that do the best they can, but you're still a client or a patient at the end of the day, and I think that's a big difference.
I think it's like relationships again, isn't it? And coming back to what we've already talked about masks and covering up and stuff like that. We don't cover anything up. This is what you see is what you get. And okay, I will protect certain situations because I don't want people to let themselves down, and then I'll go back and support them when it's the right time and things like that. But fundamentally, we're human beings, and everybody has the right to be treated with dignity and respect, whatever your circumstances. And also, so are the staff.
Yes.
So it's a two-way street. It's not just a one-way street. And I think that's the thing. There's nothing different between how, say, the clients are treated and how. I mean, I went into treatment, and it was not like that at all. It was horrendous, and people were treated like you were a piece of dirt on the bottom of your shoe. You couldn't talk to a member of staff outside of a formal setting at all. And if you wanted to go and buy a packet of tampons, you had to take it to group and ask.
Gosh.
Can you imagine that? And it's, and also all they talked about was the addiction. They never talked about the real person behind that. The addiction is the front really for what's gone on behind, and if that's not explored, then you end up getting a one-sided view, which is the addict or the alcoholic or the person with an eating disorder or whatever it is. You don't get that whole view. It's like the person that's an abuser very often has a background of some form. It's where did they learn how to be an abuser? It doesn't just happen.
No, exactly. I mean, it kind of links with bullying, I suppose.
Yeah.
Bullies have generally been bullied themselves for some form. But sort of moving away from some of the negativity, what are you looking forward to now?
Let's say.
I don't know.
Do you know what? I'm just looking forward to. So I'm still finding out what Sarah likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, love singing.
Yeah, we get. Should we talk about that very quickly?
We've got to talk about that, definitely.
So, funnily, Sarah loves singing, and so do I, as you probably know. And we have a plan that one day, we don't know when, but we're going to start doing some little singing together with another person, and see what comes out of it. Really,
That sounds really exciting.
just
Amazing.
for fun and to give back to others. And it's not about making money or anything. It's just about having fun, and then see if other people want to join us, and then take it from there. Not that I can play an instrument, can you?
No,
but
not yet.
Not yet. I've always wanted to learn to play the piano, but I taught myself. You know the Little Mermaid song. What is it? You know the one. That one. I learned that on the keyboard. That's about it.
Okay.
So unless we sing that song over and over again, I don't know.
I don't even know the songs. I don't know. I'm sure I can learn it. You can teach me.
I love giving back.
Yeah.
So I obviously volunteer for the charity. I'm now working at somewhere house.
Very exciting.
Volunteering in the office, which I love.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. I just feel happy at the moment. I was saying it earlier, I felt at peace. I went to watch the carnival last night.
Yeah.
In Burnham, I've never seen anything like it.
I mean, yeah, that's not a new response, I don't think. Anybody that doesn't live in this area and comes and watch the carnival is like, what on earth is that?
Yeah, but it was amazing.
It's really cool.
Yeah. But just things like that, being in a moment.
Yeah.
Being happy. I didn't mind that I was out in the rain.
No, exactly. Yeah.
In the wind, just being there. Like for me, it's one of the first books we get, like being in the present. My head's always been, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? What's happened? Always stuck and never really just been able to enjoy
the now.
And even now, even though I'm nervous doing this right now, I'm actually quite present doing it.
Yeah.
Whereas before I'd just be like, when's it going to finish? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Am I going to be late? Am I going to do this?
And
Am
I
I going
was
to do
like that, wasn't I? A bit before, but right now I'm all right. Right now.
Which is good. That's how you want to be.
But isn't that a lot of people don't live in that moment in time? You know, it's like the projection side is very much, I've got a meeting this time, I've got to do this, I've got to do it. But living in the moment is so valuable. I mean, I live in the moment. It annoys people Mike's going to get here when Mike's going to get here. You know, what's going to happen is going to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? At this moment in time, I'm riding my pony, and actually the rest of the world can do what they need to do, but I'm riding my pony. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I'm really bad at it.
I know.
I I sort of live by my calendar and tend to rush from one thing to the other and not necessarily enjoying what's happening right now. And I'm getting better at it. But it's incredibly hard. It's incredibly hard. So I totally get where you're coming from. I think I tend to sit back and enjoy things more when, I don't know how to explain it really. I suppose when whatever it is that's next is perhaps not as enjoyable or not as important, and you think, actually, I'm going to sit here now and enjoy what I'm doing. But yeah, I totally get what you mean about it being difficult, and it's definitely something to work on.
But how do you value what's important and what isn't important? Because that's the thing, isn't it? What is important? Because in a sense, what you're saying is you're already judging the situation before it's even happened.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true.
That's what you do as well, isn't it?
Yeah, because how many times have you thought something's going to be awful or not enjoyable, and actually, it's actually all right?
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes you think it's going to be really bad, and it's the best time you've had that week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get you. It's a real unknown, isn't it?
How many times have you gone out for dinner? When you're out for dinner, you're already thinking about what's happening the next day or what you're going to eat tomorrow or all of that.
Every day, every time. Yeah, all the time.
See, I don't know how you do that, because actually, I think if I constantly projected, I wouldn't be able to cope. I think that's why I stopped. But I suppose I was taught to stay in the moment, and I stay in the moment. So at this moment in time, I'm thinking about you and you.
Yeah.
And am I speaking into the mic properly? Because I'm a bit shit at it, because I turn my head a lot and I'm a bit animated and all of that. And Mike tells me
I'm
off
gonna have to
after the
change you and
event.
get those mics, one of those headset ones. It
What is
doesn't
that?
matter where you look.
You
We
said
could sing.
no.
That's because I think it will look really silly. And that's why we changed this setup, because it's
Yeah.
a lot more natural and comfortable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel so much more comfortable
Do
in
you?
those stools.
Yeah. But I suppose in this moment in time, if I'm thinking about the next person that's coming in, or this or that or whatever, or what's just happened or whatever, I'm not present with you. And I think I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know that you're going to be here tomorrow. And I think that's how I view life. And I think that helped when having teenagers, coming back to your topic of teenagers. My eldest child is a nightmare driver. It's nice, but he is really reckless, or was really reckless as a teenager. And I was always concerned about him driving. So I kind of thought, I don't believe in worrying. I think it's a waste of an emotion. So I thought, I've got to think of a way of managing this without thinking every time he goes out, is he going to get killed in his car? So I worked out that actually I've had him up until this certain age and I've enjoyed him. So actually anything else is a bonus. And in fact, I watched a program on Detroit, which is where Will has a house. And I don't think I should have watched it because I think it frightened me a little. Yeah. And I think it's kind of put stuff in my head. So I've had to use those skills again on 32-year-old for that reason, because otherwise I end up I overthink stuff, and I don't think that's healthy.
A lot of people overthink about things. I think that then causes them anxiety and worry.
Yeah.
And
Worst case scenario.
Yeah, worst case scenario kind of stuff. And they don't really, again, it's not about thinking in the now and being in the now, rather than overthinking what could be or what couldn't be.
And I think that's what addiction kind of took away the most. Even though you're in the now using, everything else you just cannot be present for at all.
Right.
Not a single person, nothing you're doing. And that's the only commodity you can't buy. We talk about money.
Yeah.
Buying things. The only thing you can't buy is time.
Yes.
And
very,
memories
very true.
with people in the moment. So yeah, that's what I'm enjoying. Yeah.
It's really good.
I was talking to a guy last night, and his dad's 100.
Wow.
And he's been married for 78 years. Is that possible? 78 years. Him and his wife.
22.
Yeah. So he's been married for 70. His dad's been married for 78 years to his mum. They're both still alive.
Oh, wow.
It is quite a miracle. And he was talking about and I said, gosh, your dad must have seen so many changes we must get him back on the podcast. He has been on the podcast before, but he's never talked about that. But he
would have been one of the very few people that were alive before the Queen became the Queen.
Yes. 4. They've had his dad's been through 4 monarchs.
Wow.
But also you look at the vast changes. I mean, having a mobile phone is still novel to me. But to you, it's everyday life. It's always been there. Whereas to me, I'm whatever age I am. And it's like, it's still a novelty to have a mobile phone. I mean, it isn't, because I use it all the time, but it's still like, a new thing type thing.
Yeah.
And you think, what has that man seen? 100 years. And it's like you said, he's got time, but it's almost like you don't think you're going to live until you're 100. So if you don't live now in this moment, then what happens?
Yeah, it's very true. Very, very true.
So if you could wave a magic wand, what would you, because you can't change anything from the past, you can only change the present, can't you? Or your future in that sense. What would you do? Or what would you wish for with your magic wand?
Have a nice little cottage. I'd be fostering. I'd be building loads of memories. I'd be giving back to people that have not just experienced what I've experienced, but been through what I've been through. Quiet life. I'm gazing now, aren't I? Like,
But all of those things sound very doable and plausible,
Yeah.
which is amazing because they're the goals that hopefully you will work towards and achieve over the next however many years.
But isn't that coming back to what you said? You can't buy time, but
No.
actually, if you look at your goals realistically, they are realistic goals. They're
Yeah.
nothing that you can't achieve. There's nothing stopping you from having a cottage. There's nothing stopping you from, well, you would stop you, really. It's only you that stops you from doing that. And guidelines about being a foster parent, if that gets in the way because of your past. But that might get in the way, it might not. You just don't know, do you? I mean, I don't know. Would you foster?
I would consider it for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I've always thought of fostering. Like we've taken kids in before,
Yeah.
but I just think I've got enough kids around me that are adult children.
yeah.
Anything I need, like quiet time at home.
I feel like your children would get very jealous as well.
I think they are already. What you on about? I think I spend more time with you than I do with my own kids, and they all go, "You're with Mike again."
Cool.
What would you have?
What would mine be? Oh, that's a good question. You're
Hard question.
putting me on the spot now. I think it would be probably to sort of work differently to how I work at the minute. So I'd probably be doing less sort of running around. I do a lot of running around. I do a lot of going from one place to the other every single day, and I get back home at the end of the day and I'm just worn out. I think a short-term goal would be to do less running around. I think a longer-term goal would be to probably don't know actually. Probably I don't know.
Hard, isn't it?
It's a really hard one, isn't it? In terms of I don't know. Come back to me. Let's ask Ange.
I want to keep going the way I'm going with my workload and just be a little bit kinder to myself now. I want to carry on helping people, but helping them in a different way. If you see what I'm saying? I mean, I do lots of different things, so I'm quite happy with what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But also learn to take more time out for myself, like riding my pony or writing or whatever. And the long-term goal is that I can persuade Dave to do more taking time out instead of doing what you do, which is run around like a
Yeah, he
headless
runs
chicken.
around.
Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah. And I don't see the logic in that.
No.
I'm because I'm very organised and plan everything and have everything lined up. So, and I don't get kind of stressed about things really. I'm not a stressy person.
No.
So I don't see the point in doing that to yourself. It just feels cruel. Whereas doing things methodically doesn't. So in that sense, and I love my kids and I love spending time with the children, and we're going on holiday soon with them, and I'm looking forward to that. But it's just also having time for myself.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not brilliant at it. I need to be a bit more brilliant at it. And like go for a cup of tea somewhere, or go out for coffee with a girlfriend, or.
Yeah.
Exactly. But that's what I'm planning. That's what I'm doing. I'm working towards that already.
Which is good.
Yeah. Amazing. And allowing myself to do it. Because that's the other thing. It's all very well saying, I want to foster, I want to do this, I want to do that. But actually, can I give myself permission to do that?
That's it. And making the time to do it and all that kind of stuff.
Because before we started recording, we were talking about whether somebody's beautiful or not, weren't we?
Yeah.
And we were talking, and it was that bit about how do you see yourself, and how are you, internally, and how does the outside people see you? And like somebody might say to you, "You're beautiful," but do you feel that you're beautiful? And I suppose that then comes back to that bit about: do I deserve to have time out for myself? Do I deserve to have a nice cottage in the country? Do I deserve to be a bit more organised? And it's that link between self-esteem and self-awareness to actually engage with the actual process of change. Because if you don't do that process of change, then you're just going round and round and round and round in circles, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think again, it's about kind of that whole self-awareness and being aware of what damage, I suppose, you cause yourself by saying some of those things and thinking some of those things. And that kind of comes back to the whole overthinking.
Yeah.
How many how many of us around this table have overthinked before?
Yeah.
And I think I'd be surprised if any of us said we hadn't. And it's always going to happen in different situations about different things, whether, how do we look, what are we wearing, all of
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. But it's also more meaningful. It's, should I buy that car? Should I buy that chocolate bar? Should I, whatever it might be, it's all of that kind of overthinking and giving yourself permission to do things. I do it all the time in terms of, should I really do that, or should I be more reserved? Because I'm quite a risk taker in the sense of I like to push the boundaries and kind of try and make something of something. And I think there's a lot of times where it comes with massive risk, potentially massive reward, but I tend to overthink it a lot before making that decision. And what I've noticed in myself more recently is if I make a quick decision and go with it, probably 99% of the time, it touch wood, it works out. So maybe that's my brain's way of telling me not to overthink, perhaps.
But isn't that bit about being in touch with your emotional self and also being in touch with your intuitive self? Because, and I think it's something that a lot of people miss. They miss that intuitive response. They miss listening to their gut response.
Yeah.
Actually, this feels right. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, sure.
And going with that instead of spending 6 months overthinking and you've missed the moment.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
But sometimes we can really overthink the things that are good for us as well, can't we? Like you've said about going for a cup of tea or relaxing a bit more. Them kind of thoughts can take ages to do something about when it's like that real self-care stuff. But other things we can just do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a bit like you doing the podcast, isn't it? I mean, how anxious were you about doing the podcast?
You're very.
And how's it been?
It's been all right.
Just a conversation, right?
I think I'm better at that spontaneous. If you'd have told me a week ago and then I had a week to think about it, I would have probably drove myself a bit crazy for a week thinking about it.
Yeah. But I suppose the worst thing, what's the worst? I always look at it, what's the worst thing that can happen and what's the best thing that can happen? So the worst thing that can happen is we go, oh, that was shit, Sarah. We're not going to, sorry, Mike. That was rubbish, Sarah.
Record it.
We'll re-record it. Or what?
And the great thing is, everybody who's watching isn't going to know if this is the original or the re-record.
Yeah. So they won't know that this is take 37.
No.
And that we've been trying for a month.
No, we haven't. This is the first one, and you've been fantastic.
Thank you.
You know that you're funny.
You are. You're really funny. I can't remember where I was. I think I must have been at the coffee and chat. You said something, and it was really funny.
You are really funny.
You are
You've got
really
a
funny.
great sense of humour.
Yeah, like
Thank
naturally
Thank
funny.
you.
I felt like your mummy at that point, reminding you to say thank you.
That's something. How are you at taking compliments? There you go.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
terrible.
So so if I said to you, "That's a nice T-shirt,"
I'd
what
be
would you say?
I think that you were being what's the word?
Facetious,
No, that's not the word I'm thinking.
kind,
No.
Just saying it.
sarcastic.
That's it. Sarcastic. That's the word. I couldn't think of it. Yeah.
But would you justify it and go, "Oh, this is just from so and so," or it's old, and
Yeah, literally that. But yeah, I think you're being sarcastic.
instead of just "Thank you, Sarah."
Yeah, literally. Because I think so many people do. That is their humour. People say things like that.
Or their discomfort.
Yeah, or their discomfort.
So they cover it up with humour.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I have to consciously make myself say thank you. And I do that.
Yeah.
In my head, I go, thank you. I have to say it because it's not a natural thing. Even now,
But-
God knows how many years in therapy, I still have to think about it.
Of course. But if you were being sarcastic and I said thank you, it would probably really shut you down. If you were being sarcastic. You know what I mean? And that's the thing that you've got to remember.
Yeah.
That if someone does say something to you, I watched a YouTube clip a few weeks ago where I can't remember what it was, but there was this guy who was just walking along and someone said something about his hair and they were quite clearly being sarcastic. And the guy turned around, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And it just shut the other guy down
Yeah.
so quickly.
Yeah.
And of course, you carry on life being happy and having the upper hand, as it were.
Yeah. No, it is an interesting way to go, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a
Definitely.
great skill to learn, but even though I know that skill, I don't always do it. I forget or I overthink it.
Yeah. No shit. Oops, I'm not allowed to
Overthink it.
say that.
You
It's
and
hard to
swearing.
take a compliment, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Compliment.
you know, Dave says I'm beautiful, and I always say to him, it's because you're biased. And it's really, and I have to work on that really hard. I do not think I'm beautiful in any way physically, if you see what I'm saying. I think I've got a beautiful heart. I don't think I'm a unkind person. I think I'm a good person. But that other bit about being physically having beauty, I've got wrinkles. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I've got red cheeks, and
But
my hair
art
was
is in
getting
the beauty of the holder, isn't it?
exactly, and that's the thing. And sometimes I have to learn to say thank you. I do
Yeah.
say thank you to him, but you know, often when on a bad day, I go, yeah, it's because you're biased. True, though, isn't it?
It's very true.
I'm really aware that you've got an appointment to go to, and I don't want to overrun now. Mike has a question for you.
I do, yes. We ask everybody this question. So hopefully, if you've listened to previous podcasts, you will know the question.
And I have now forgotten. Oh,
That's all right.
no.
But the question is what is your goal for the next 12 months? Because what we want to do is get you back in 12 months' time, maybe less, and revisit your goal and see if you achieved it. So now I've got to think on the spot really quickly what your goal is and hopefully achieve it in the next 12 months.
Do you know what? Mine is simple.
Good.
That I'm still in recovery and I'm doing what I'm doing at Somewhere House, and my recovery is stronger.
Fantastic. I think that's a great goal to have. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much
Thanks.
for coming on.
Thank you.
And in our new studio, very exciting.
Our homely studio.
Our homely studio. That's it. And
Thank you for having me.
Oh no, we
it's
loved
been
it.
great. Thank you
Thanks.
so much.